I'm going to bow in. I was looking for an Osensi quote from the Thursday session, and then I came across another one which seemed pretty appropriate for this session. So I haven't got my glasses on. Let's see if I can do this. Instruction can impart only a fraction of the teaching. It is through your own devoted practice that the mysteries of the art of peace are brought to life. Well, I've kind of been saying that for a little while now. You guys are your teachers and the inspiration has to come from me. And so now you've got verification from the founder. I see I wasn't just making it up. So that's good to know, isn't it? Okay, we're going to do a centering. You can sit, you can stand, you can kneel. I'm going to go into Caesar, I think. And all I want you to do is put your hands where your belt, just below where your belt would be, as if you were cupping your lower belly. And I want you to just breathe. And I want you to sort of feel the warmth that you're going to build up behind your hands. It's going to be, as you breathe in, you're going to generate some heat. And every breath you take in, you're stoking the fire a bit more, but maintaining it as you breathe out. So just focus on the heat that you can feel. See if you can get it to suffuse your whole body. And in your own time, I'm going to bring you back to the room. I think centering is a very personal thing, so you know, I don't know if that worked for you, but I found that quite difficult to pull away from and to come back to you. I could have sat there doing that for a while longer. Rather than give you my own personal experience of what happened, I'm kind of intrigued to know what went on for you. So if you could give me some feedback, that would be great. Mitra, do you want to offer a comment?
Yes, it's I actually, when you mentioned that, I was feeling the same way. It's like you want to stay more, you want to stay longer.
Yes.
Yeah, you want to stay longer.
What did you feel, if anything, while you were doing that?
It's a peaceful centering and grounding of the energy back to its own essence. Okay. Very peaceful centering. And you, at the same time, you feel very flexible. meaning that if you need to move fast, because you're soft and relaxed, your body is able to respond fast if necessary.
Cool. Okay. Patrick? Nothing for you?
Yeah, nothing for me.
Okay. Finn, anything for you?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm particularly suggestible, but I did feel that warmth that you were suggesting, and it was a nice feeling, and just to be able to take that away. That's a
I'm
great
laughing because one of my videos was put on an Aikido website and was absolutely panned. And they said what I was doing was hypnotizing the people I was working with. It's fantastic. I wish I could. Anyone else have anything to offer?
I cannot say that I felt heat, but definitely was less cold.
Yeah. I actually kind of go really, really hot, personally. It makes me, I sometimes do this when I'm lying down just before I go to sleep. I'm amazed at the heat that I feel generated. So yeah, if you're feeling cold, maybe this is one to try. But hopefully it's good at calming you down, but also you're packed full of energy. That's what I'd like it to be like. Okay, so we're going to start with a few warm-up exercises. So go to our left, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go to side, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now reaching up. 1, 2, 3 legs, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, right. So, as you were doing that, what were you thinking about? Nothing?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay. Anybody else got anything to offer?
Extending outwards.
Okay, that's quite good. Anything else?
Heaviness, I felt nice and heavy.
Okay, that's good. You're noticing stuff because the point of me just kind of going into it is that I think most people go into warm-up mode and it's just the thing to get out of the way before the real practice starts. So they're not learning or getting any benefit from it. Dimitri, did you have something to say?
I just, did you ask what we were feeling or what we were thinking?
What you were thinking is what I said. But if you had something,
Okay,
you were
yeah, I
feeling,
was feeling, but I wasn't thinking. Yeah, yeah.
Well, what were you
So
feeling?
my reply was correct. Yes,
what,
I was
what were
not
you feeling.
feeling.
Yeah, what were you feeling?
I was feeling. My mind was going the direction of the movement.
Fine. Okay.
It was expanding. Yes.
All right, so this time I just want you to do it a little bit more mindfully. So we're doing, well, I'm telling you the purpose of these warm-up exercises. It can be different things for different people, but my warm-up is to create a relaxation. It's an extension of the centering, if you like, so that when we get to other stuff, we're kind of ready to receive that information. It's not something just to go through. And actually, there's so much in a warm-up that is central to our practice that if we're mindful in that, we learn quite a lot about technique as well. Okay.
That's the way I see it too. But
Yeah.
I also think it's once I'm actually doing the warm-up, say on the mat or whatever, I want to stay there, don't want to move away from it.
Okay.
If that makes sense. I just don't, I want to do more of it.
Well, good, because we're going to do more of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go back to the beginning. And
Yeah.
I want you to think about how far you can turn and why do you stop where you stop? Could you go further and still feel comfortable and grounded? Explore that. Choose. So I'm going to slow it down a bit so we notice what's going on and when we feel that we've reached the end of the range.
Yeah.
We're not going to be tense, but there's still a lot of focus and intention. And as you do this exercise, Where are your arms in relation to your body? And do they feel relaxed? Now, are you doing anything with your fingertips? Are you extending energy? I think, Andrew, you talked about extending outwards. So there should be some intention on the movement as well. It's not just a question of making a physical shape. It's about putting some intent in this as well. Well, I know that if I was to stop here and be tested, I'd feel solidly grounded here, but just a little bit more and I've gone too far and I will be pushed over. Your body is telling you that the whole time. Okay, so now we do the sideways exercise. Then we'll do it slowly. Where do you go to kind of on the first movement? 1, 2, and there's usually a bit more give when you just pause at the 1. I was always told that the first one was for the body and the second one was for the mind. You can relax into it and go further. 1, 2, 3, 4. Why do we stop on the first one? I don't know, but it kind of wants to stop here. Then when I relax, I can go a bit further. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, there's intention through my fingertips. I'm extending outwards. I can explore how grounded I feel underneath my feet. And I'm comfortable here. But if I were tested, I would hold my ground. But there, not so much. So one of the themes of my Aikido is that it's all about exploring boundaries. And it starts with my own personal boundaries. Where can I comfortably operate? What's the range of where I can perform and feel happy? Well, I need to know where that borderline is because I want to extend that. I want to improve beyond it. But if I go too far straight away, it's like jumping too big a gap. You have to practice that. You've got to work at the borderline and push out. And when you get to a certain period where you're relatively competent in your own body, you get to practice quite successfully with other people. And then you're exploring their boundaries too, and seeing where they're at. You know, one of the skills of a teacher is to know exactly how far to push your teacher. We talked about it in the session last week. Knowing where your pupil is at and just stretching them far enough, but not too much. It takes skill to work that out and sensitivity, I think. Okay, so this time we're going to stretch up. 1, 2, and through our legs. 3, 4. Are you bending your knees? Or do you keep them straight? What's going on underneath your feet as you do this? Are you being intentional as you go up and through your legs? So what I mean by that, reaching for the heavens, throwing stuff back through my legs. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I notice that as I do this, I push my knees out a little bit to give me a solider base. It's like riding a horse here, so I still feel solid and grounded. Whereas if I kept the top of the legs, that gives me all sorts of tension. I rock back onto the back of my feet and I fall over. Just knowing that when I go to the ground, I use my knees a lot. And the width of my stance to be able to keep my posture is a useful skill in itself. Okay, so we're going to do Nikyo. Okay, so we're covering our fingers. And basically, I want to drop the elbow. And notice that as you drop the elbow, the Nikyo comes onto yourself. Quite useful to know this because when I'm doing Nikyo to somebody else, that's exactly what I'm doing. I keep this elbow nice and tight to my body. It doesn't come out here. I let it come down. I'm totally relaxed. Bring this to my center line. 1. And again, I'm exploring the borders. If I put too much pressure on and it hurts, I know that if I'm tested, I'm going to fall over. I'm taking it to the boundaries of where maybe a touch of discomfort, but it's within the range that I can take. Swapping hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we can maybe play with it a bit. We can, I think, dropping this energy back into our center. Sorry, I should change this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what I'm doing, Nikki, to somebody else, it comes up from my center and then it travels out to my partner. It doesn't come from up here, it doesn't come from up here, it comes from my center. They're grabbing me, I'm taking that and dropping, literally plugging it into my system. And if the plug isn't pushed in properly, then the juice doesn't flow. So I have a really tight connection with my own chest when I take them. It's not hard, but it is tight and firm. So that if they try to slip away, there's no way they pull their body away without getting a hold of me with them, and that usually puts them with the other arm as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember the Katagayesh. You want to be looking at the palm of your hand. You want to see that the little finger is in the crease of your wrist. And you want the thumb between my little pinky and the next one is the ring finger. I just want to drop it down. I don't want to come out. I just want to come down that center line and wait till the body says, no, that's far enough. Thank you very much. And bring it up again. 2, 3, 4, 5. So as you go down, you should feel it getting tighter and tighter and tighter. So you swap hands now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there should be no sense of really putting this on. It's just that as you drop down, the Katagayesh comes on. Yeah, so there's nothing to, it's not me doing that at all. I'm just dropping down. As I reach the bottom part, that's pretty tight. And remember, if we had a partner, we would be going another 6 to 8 inches down, so there's no way they're going to be standing up at that point. On the other side, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, so we're going to do Sankyo. I think I made this point last week. If you see the Sankyo shape, you generally see it done like that, right? And there's a logic to that, but I know that if I'm doing this for relaxation, what's happening now is I've got tension in my shoulder. So you just want to bring your elbow up, Dimitra. So you can notice what happens in your shoulder then. Keep lifting it until you know, it's not very comfortable, is it? Now you can kind of understand what's going on with your partner when you're doing it. I have to say, when I'm doing something, I don't like making this shape, because it means they're standing right close to me, and I reckon they've got another hand which they can hit you with. So my first thing is to extend outwards, so that at least 3 foot away. I feel much more comfortable. We can't play with that today. So for warm-up purposes, we want to keep our elbows down. It's a stretch on the wrist. So it's just about chest height that you go to. And as you stretch out, the thumb is twisting a little bit on the wrist, and you should feel the stretch. And you can extend your energy out to me or somebody else on the screen, and I can extend my energy out to you. So Vitaly, if you remember when we were playing on that one-to-one session, I needed you to think beyond where your hand ended and as far as your imagination will allow. So I can go all the way to Russia now, which is handy. Get some real extension on this. And then I can notice how grounded I feel maybe. and how aligned my body is. Cool. Okay, so now we're going to just bring one hand up. And yeah, a lot of people will do it like that, without realizing, well, if you relaxed, that would happen. Because gravity brings your hand to here. Only your mind says to do that. It's not as relaxed as it could be. It should be here. So, we lift up, and we just let it drop down and come back up. Now, I want you to notice the flow. And again, you put a bit of intention in as you get used to this. Then you want to notice that your hand drops in front of you. If you go behind you, often you see this with students, they go behind and drop down behind. Notice what goes on in your shoulder as soon as your hand goes behind you. Just stop there a little while and notice the strain that puts on your shoulder. That can't be right if we're trying to practice relaxation. It can't be optimal when we're trying to create power. So it should never drop down anywhere other than, it stops slightly in front of my body. That's where it goes down to the lowest point, and then the momentum carries it back to the top. And notice how my elbow is bent. I'm not coming straight arm up. It's bent. 2, 3, 4, 5. And on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I kind of really like the flow of this. I like the circularity of the movement. I like the energy it generates. It feels a little bit like flying. And then 2 hands. And when we use both hands, there should be even more energy generated. 3, 4, 5, and the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just so you know, I got my legs quite wide apart just so you can see me. Ordinarily, I'd probably be here. I kind of want you to see what's going on with my arms. Okay, now we're going to just sink down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the other way. Notice as I do this, I keep a straight back. Very important to do this. You don't want to be doing this kind of thing. You drop down as far as you can and keep a straight back. 4, 5. Okay. Now we're going to go to the mat. And more often than not, I see this done as kind of a calisthenic exercise. I haven't got a problem with that, but my purpose is relaxation. And I know that if I reach out like this for my toes, and guys, you can try this, what's going on in your body? Well, for me, I've got a great deal of strain on the tendons in the back of my leg now. I can notice quite a lot of tension in my shoulders. It just doesn't feel comfortable. If someone were to push me from the side, I would just topple over. Now let go. And your hands should flop to your lap. And what you should find is there's not a triangular shape here, but that not only are the palms of your hands on your legs, but so are your forearms. And the movement needs to come from your center. So you have to act as a coordinated whole. It's not just me reaching out. That's the last thing I want. I want to keep this relaxation in my shoulders that I've got now. So I'm going to slide forward. I'm going to pause. I'm going to relax. And then I'm going to go again. And I'm going to relax. And I'm going to go again. And I'm going to relax. And I can notice my breathing. And then I'm going to go again. And if I'm doing this on my own, I'm doing it at greater speed. But I'm just trying to show you how, again, your body says, oh, stop. But then if you ask it for more, it gives you more. And if you ask it for a bit more, it usually gives you a bit more. And maybe you just explore how far you can go and how far you can take this with your breath. You just let the weight of your body fall forward and your arms slide forward. Good. Now you open up your legs. Right. Again, you have this principle of not reaching out with a sort of triangular shaped arm for our toes, but just where does your arm fall to on your left leg? All of your forearm, you should be able to touch the skin on your leg to your gi, wherever you're wearing it. Okay, and you put your intention, we're going to try two things, okay? I'm going to ask you to look at your left foot and go. Now pause and just kind of assess how you feel in this place. Okay, and now we're going to vary it, and the variation is going to be that instead of looking at your left foot where you're sliding towards, you're going to look at your right foot. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you're going to hold it wherever you ended up. And then you're going to have an assessment. Now, for me, my assessment is that I'm more grounded. I know if I'm tested on this leg, the one I'm looking at is not going to rise in the air. If I look over here and lift, I can't do anything. But I know if somebody else is testing me, that leg will go up in the air when I'm looking to the left. So, effectively, when I look to the left, all my weight and intention is here. This side is out of balance because I've kind of left it out of the equation. When I look at it, I rebalance this. I'm putting some attention on the right side as well as on my left. Now let's try it on the other side. So we work it wrong this one. We'll look to the left as we let our body fall to the left. And back up. And again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So I'm just going to come back to you for a sec. So any feedback on what you noticed as you were doing the exercises? Just trying to be a bit more intentional. Did you get more out of the exercise than you would do if you were just copying my shapes? I am hoping one of you will offer me something.
Definitely.
Yes, I'm finding that pushing 74 years of age is getting harder and harder and harder.
Well, okay, that's actually a really good observation, John. And I think my answer to you would be, well, don't try to do what you used to be able to do. Observe the boundaries you've got physically. Your mind is much stronger than it used to be, but your body is not the flexible 20-year-old that you once were. So pay attention to that, because then if you don't, you're doing yourself a disservice, really. You're putting tension and strain in an effort to keep up, and you don't need to. You've got many more compensating skills to offer than the fact that you can't bend as you once did. Yeah. I don't know if that's helpful. Finn.
That's another really profound insight, just the boundaries thing, thinking of my own work, like the boundaries, there's some sort of fundamental boundaries which are essential and to keep everybody safe, and then there's other boundaries which are sort of proximal development, where you want to see if you can extend them, and that's where the work is. So that's really, really helpful. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and just if we, because I love to, as things come up and I think about the application in daily life, when we get ourselves into trouble with other people, what have we usually failed to do? We've usually failed to observe the boundaries. Maybe unintentional. We didn't know where the boundaries were. We suddenly found we've overstepped, or we've not stepped up to it. You know, we've not given enough of ourselves, and people feel let down because we've not given quite enough. But you know, you can scale that up. You know, many wars are started because people literally overstep the boundaries. They want to take what somebody else has got. And I think, yeah, that one is a profound thing to be working at, and you never ever stop learning on that one. Ronal, what have you got to say? Yes, you've got to unmute. I caught you.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I kind of was doing what you suggested to John, even though I'm younger. I couldn't touch my feet. So
Right.
I just went as far as I could. But I did notice, which was interesting, that when I extended my mind there, I could go further. So, yeah.
No, actually, we can play with that a little bit. Okay, so how many of you can touch your feet? Yeah, okay, one. All right, so let's see how we do.
Quentin,
Yes.
I wanted to say something on what you just mentioned on the boundaries of and being attentive to the changes of the physical body. When you were talking about this, I was reminded of a very, very interesting presentation by Mary Heine Sensei some time ago. When, well, she didn't use the word boundaries, but she was talking about how in her early years of training in Japan by some of the most well-known Japanese masters of our times, she was so badly injured. Because that was the main practice in Japan at that time. Yes. I mean, everybody's separate body was treated in the same way and was expected to do the same things as everybody, as if it was a copy-paste thing. And there were so many injuries. And this is not respecting the other person.
I think it's one of the interesting observations that when you think back to those times, how long had those great names in Aikido been practicing? And the answer is actually not that long. You know, it would have been, when Mary Heine was there, maybe it was only 5 or 10 or even 15 years. And on this session, we've got Steve, who's done about 50 years of martial arts. John, I don't know exactly, but 45 to 50, I would guess. Andrew, I would think the same. I've done 36. Mia, I don't know how long, but a fair old time. You know,
almost 40.
Well, there you go. And yet we revere these people, and yet really in their time, they were quite crude, really. They were ahead of everybody else, but it was still quite crude. You know, they were not the finished article. If you look at Sensei when he started, my understanding is he was a beast of a man in terms of his physical strength. But when he became a little old man, he didn't rely on that. And yes, his Aikido was that much more powerful because he learned to give up doing that stuff. That wasn't what the art was about at all. It was his ability not to fight, his ability to relax completely and feel calm in any situation that meant that he could deal positively with it. Yeah.
But you know, in many dojos, people, for example, can be judged in somehow according to their abilities to do wonderful and hard break falls, regardless of how their physical body is. And they judge their competence in Aikido regarding to if they can do, you know, consecutive break falls or not. And that's not the point, right?
Can I, Quentin?
Yes.
Can I just make an observation?
Yes.
I find that many people are coming into Aikido now in their 40s and 50s. They're never ever going to experience the same kind of hard ukemi that we went through.
Yeah.
So when people say, oh, it's not the same as it used to be, well, it can't be if you come into Aikido in the later years.
No, I think that's true. And they're probably coming for different things too, aren't they, John? You know, their purpose and reason for wanting to show up is probably different to, you know, those guys who show up when they're 20 and looking for a bit of athletic practice. And yeah, you're totally right, Dimitri. I mean, we all probably love to see somebody who's good at rolling and ukemi. It looks really, really dynamic. But at the end of the day, the practice is about so much more than that. I can think of quite a few cases of people who looked fantastic on the mat. They were really dynamic. But as soon as life came up and slapped them in the face, they had not a clue. They weren't able to apply what they'd learned on the mat in life at all. And I've always had that link with life, and I've never managed to do the sort of 7-day-a-week thing, but I think my link with life is what's kept it real for me and made me get to where I am today. Let's practice with trying to touch our feet. And you don't have to touch your feet, okay? We just want to see whether we can go further than we thought we could. So you're just going to basically lower yourself down and see where gravity stops you. And then relax some more. Ask yourself to relax some more. And focus on your breathing. And feel the weight dropping through your head. And just get comfortable with wherever you're at. Breathe a bit more. Okay. And you didn't have to touch the ground, but I'm going to kind of be surprised if any of you tell me that you didn't end up going further than when you first started. So
Definitely went further.
You know, so your body's capable of quite a lot if you allow it to ease in. And that's good because now you're starting to push the boundaries that you should be pushing, not the ones you think you should. Wow, that's pretty good, John. So it's there if you relax, but as soon as you try to push it with and demand things of your body, it's just like when someone jabs me in the chest. You know, I want to jab back. You get a reaction back from your body saying, "Leave me alone." Okay. Whereas if you just allow it time, it'll be fairly giving for you, and it will do more for you. We do an exercise, which I can only vaguely demonstrate. Imagine this was somebody sitting in front of me, and basically I'm asking them to do that exercise where they're stretching out towards their toes. And I will place my hands gently on the back. And the aim is to help them stretch further. And if you think, well, I need to shove them harder because otherwise they won't get further, what you get is that pushback. And it's very uncomfortable. People begin to panic in their body. So rather than taking them further than they could do on their own, they end up doing less. But if you just relax your hands on there and let your key go with their key, or just get the rhythm of what they're doing and just add a little bit more to it, you put a bit of intention into it, a bit of focus into it, a bit of an awareness of what's going on their body. You're looking to explore their boundaries, whatever language works for you. There you get this beautiful sense of connection. And you also find that you're actually being very helpful. You do take them further than they would go on their own. And you can do those exercises, you know, pushing to the toes, pushing to the sides. And there's another one where you kneel back. And you go back onto the mat. I'm quite flexible here, but most people end up somewhere here. And if you support the head, you can usually take people, the head and maybe the top of the shoulders. Again, you can get them to relax into doing a little bit more. How are we doing on time, guys? How are we doing? Actually, we're coming up for about 10 past. Amazing how the time flies. Okay, so I mean, the point that I wanted to make today is that, again, we have limited amounts of things that we can do via Zoom. We can't grab someone's wrist still. But there's loads of exercises that are an important part of our class that are solo exercises, but usually they don't get the attention that they deserve. And actually, I think they're some of the most interesting parts of the class. It's a real chance for me to look at what's going on in my body at the start of the class, and maybe to practice extension, or maybe to practice centering, or maybe to practice being grounded, or maybe to practice relaxation. You know, what happens when I really focus on the exercise compared to if I think about what I was doing at the office today? You know, how does that change what I'm getting out of the exercise? I could make a pretty good guess. But, you know, bringing your intention to these exercises can teach you a lot. And what you learn through your body, you can apply to somebody else's body too. For me, the place that I learn the most really is through doing ukemi, because I can feel everything that's going. I can look at somebody's technique and I can say, that's not quite right. But I don't always know what it is that's not right. But as soon as I take ukemi, I can feel the exact point where it's gone wrong. And it tells me a lot about their technique, you know, and where I should be looking to find the fault. And in a smaller way, I can do that with my own body too. You know, I can pay attention to it. So how I apply that is, I do an office job. I'm sitting in front of a computer a lot of the day. I think it's very easy to find yourself slipping forward as the day goes on and you're typing away. But now you know, there will be several times a day where I say, whoa, back. And I sit up straight again. And I'm sure, you know, that takes a lot less out of me and results in less back strain, which I'm inclined to get if I'm not aware, than I otherwise would. Okay, so that's where I shut up. If you have any wonderful feedback or useful pointers, or just didn't work for you, it's all good to hear.
Yeah, thanks for that, Quentin. I think it's helpful to listen to your own body and listen to what your body's telling you.
Yeah, and one of the things that we might do on a Thursday night is we might do a session on how Aikido changes with, you know, changes in your body, you know, usually resulting because of age, but it doesn't necessarily have to be through age, and paying attention to that and seeing how you have to adjust is exactly what we're talking about now. Anything else?
I would like to add or mention or observation regarding the exercise when you help partner to move forward, and if you try to push with strength, you get negative effect. It's same with the technique. If you are not relaxed, okay, feel threatened and tenses up.
Yes, this is very, very true. And so when you see me doing that, people describe that as pushing. If I'm pushing, I'm getting exactly the opposite result to the one I want. What I'm doing is I'm connecting and I'm blending and I'm extending. So actually, I'm turning all the muscles off. I'm becoming really, really soft, and I'm really trying to feel what's going on with this other body and to support it and to be helpful. And the point about that, Mia, is not only just for the exercise, but again, when we're teaching, we have to be really careful about the language we use, because people will talk about pushing and pulling. And if you say that to your students, guess what they're going to do? They are going to push and pull. But if you talk about extending forwards or extending back towards you, you're sending a completely different message. And they may require translation, but extension doesn't really talk about muscles in the same way that pushing and pulling does. So
that's a good pointer. Thank you.
Yeah, it's quite interesting and sometimes I hear myself and I think, oh, I shouldn't have used that word, and I'll go back and replay it. So I didn't mean to say that. I should have said this instead. Yeah, the language is important. Okay, are we done, guys?
Yep.
Okay, well then we'll bow out, or I will. So I wish you a very good evening. If you do have things that you would like me to try here, just give me some feedback and I'll try to incorporate that into the next sessions that we do. Okay, but thank you once again for showing up. It gives me a chance to practice. Hopefully it gives me a chance to offer you something useful, but I like the chance to practice myself.